Hey everyone, out here at the farm today. I'm gonna finally get this cherry tree in the ground. So this is a little orchard, if you'll remember. So we have blueberries here, apples. I don't know that you can see them. Behind the apple is some pear trees. There's a plum over here. Right here is my slightly crooked row of black raspberries that we just planted. Now I'd love to have the cherry tree up in here, but this is the septic field for the house. So something in a septic field is usually only about 18 inches, maybe 2 feet under the ground. And this cherry tree is going to have roots 3 feet deep, 5 feet deep. So I don't want that to interfere with my septic field. So, which I think some of these probably are already interfering with it, but they'll just have to be for now. The idea was, if you remember at the end of last growing season, I showed you another field that we hadn't messed with, and I said that, we had plans for that and a surprise. The idea is to eventually turn that into an orchard, but there's too many things going on this past winter and early spring to be able to make that a reality. So I'm just kind of temporarily putting things over here, with the thought that they'll get moved over there when I get closer to that process. So anyways, this is a Montmorency cherry. You can see there. So it is one of those sour pie cherries. It has a little bit of sweetness, so you could eat them right off the tree if you want to. And if you'll notice, we do have one little set of blooms. Now, I do not expect to get any cherries off of this tree this year, mainly because of the stress it's had while being in this pot, and then the stress of me planting it and getting used to a new space, a new environment. So I don't expect to get anything off of this. Anything I do get will be just a blessing. So I'm going to get this in the ground. I'm going to put it right here, which I hope is not going to be bothering the drain field. I think will probably be okay. But the reason I'm picking this spot is that this right here is the stump of a wild cherry tree. So that was a wild black cherry that lived there for many, 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 many years. And it was actually cut down by my dad and my brother probably about 5 years ago now. It obviously had a lot of rot going on. It wasn't in very good shape because it was old. But it grew there very, very well. And so I'm going to give this a shot at growing in the same place and see what happens. Now you'll notice here, this is in a very densely vegetated space. That's good, because that means that this here has some water, which is great. But if you'll notice, what's growing here is clover. And it's not clover that we planted. This is clover that has chosen to live here. And what that means is more than likely the soil right here doesn't have very much nitrogen. So I need to make sure that I take that into account when I fertilize this tree. So I'm going to dig a hole, and the instructions on the tree, as well as instructions just in general guidelines, say that for a cherry tree, you want to dig a hole that's twice as wide as its current root ball, and you want to dig just a tiny bit deeper than what it currently is, so that you have some nice loose soil right under it. So I'm going to get to digging, and then I'll show you the next step. Got my hole dug. Did have to chop through a few roots from this old tree, but that was easy because it's been dead for a while. Now, the planting instructions for this say to plant it with this bag intact and not to worry about it because it's biodegradable. But a couple issues with that. Number one, do they think that zip tie is going to biodegrade? No, not going to happen. So, make sure you take off that zip tie. Now I'm actually going to also take off this bag, because just because they say it's biodegradable, this may take who knows how long to actually biodegrade. And in the meantime, your tree is just being strangled by it. So I'm going to defy the instructions, and I'm going to take all this off and get it in my hole. So I think I know why they told you to leave it in the canvas bag, because when I pulled the tree out of this pot, the tree came out and the dirt stayed behind. So what I'm thinking is that this tree hasn't been in this pot very long, which is actually a good thing when it comes to us transplanting it. So now I have all this mulchy like dirt that I can use to mulch this tree. But what I want to show you, so I got this thing in the ground. It does have a bit of a lean to it, but hopefully that'll fix itself. But you can see down in here is where the graft occurred, where they grafted this cherry we wanted to eat onto more than likely a wild cherry. Now what you want to make sure you do when you plant this is you want to make sure that that graft seam there is 1 to 2 inches above your ground, 1 to 2 inches above your mulch. So you don't want that getting wet. You don't want anything happening to that seam there. So I'm going to get this mulch around it and give it a drink of water, and I think it's good to go. You can already tell now that I've gotten it further out in the sun. See it sweating? Can you see it sweating on those leaves? See how shiny they are? So it'll definitely need some water now that I've got it out here in the sun. But I'm going to get this around it and give it a good drink of water, and we'll head on to our next project. I thought I'd show you while I was over here. These blueberry bushes are just full of pollinators. Loads of butterflies, but I also, and I don't know if I'll be able to show it to you if he'll fly away, but there's a honeybee floating around here, and that is excellent. Some little bumblebees, but there is a honeybee. Where did he go? Ooh, that bumblebee almost tried to take my head off. But you'll see, especially that one over there in the sun. See all the butterflies? They are loving that these flowers are here. You'll see all the bumblebees if you look real close. I'm not getting much closer. Oh, that's a cool butterfly. Ooh. Oh, he flew away. That's one I have never seen before. Let's see if it'll light somewhere we can get a better look at it. It was black and had some yellow on it, but not like these. Look, that's a huge bumblebee there. Can you see him? He's massive. And you got all these other ones. There's another giant one. Look at that one. Now that's a bumblebee. These little baby ones. There's a butterfly, another butterfly. But I don't see that black one that was here. Well, maybe it'll come back one day and we'll be able to see it. But I just thought I'd share with you. Now you can see there's some on that one over there now that I moved on. But just full of them. Absolutely beautiful. See the two over here? Either mating or fighting, not sure which. But absolutely gorgeous. This apple tree has done its blooming. I don't know if we can see any. You can see the blooms finishing up there. I don't see any baby apples just yet. If you'll remember, this is the only tree we've gotten fruit off of. We got one apple off of this one last year. I'm kind of concerned we lost our plums because it has bloomed and I don't see anything on it. So it may not be a good plum year. This is another apple tree. This one's a little too far in the shade, but we pruned it real well and it is blooming real pretty. Let's see if I can show you. That's what your apple blossoms look like. Absolutely gorgeous. Apples are in the rose family, so they'll be one of your last fruit trees to bloom. And their timing is typically about the same time that your roses in your yard will bloom. These pears, I don't know why they don't do anything but make leaves. Haven't seen any blooms on them, and I haven't seen any pears. So I'll have to do a little more investigating and see what exactly the deal is. Does this one have this one might have a tag on it. It says they're Bartlett pears, so they should be making pears, but I don't know. I'll have to go back to the drawing board on that one. This little straggly apple tree. I almost wonder if this one has grown off of the rootstock instead of off of the graft, because it's very spindly and very wild looking, even though it's really in the best location. So I'm curious about this one. I don't think it has bloomed. So interesting, but we'll keep an eye out and see what it does. But if you'll notice the difference looking at this one versus the one right beside it, see the difference in shape? See how this is nice and tall and then it gets wide, kind of like a lollipop, and this is just a hot mess. That makes me think this is a crabapple or some wild cultivar, but we'll see. We'll give it a chance. A butterfly came to see us. So we don't cut our grass very early in the spring. We let it go for a long time, and you will see that we have all sorts of things growing. Buttercups, these really cute little purple things, some wild geraniums, all kinds of different things. And so the wildlife, the bees, the bugs, butterflies all really enjoy having this little meadow here. So we try to leave it as long as we can. We'll probably cut it after this next rainstorm, but try to leave it. My figs, nobody has any growth yet, so they may not live. I don't know. It's been real dry. Some of these raspberries are doing okay. Some of them are struggling. It's been really dry. We haven't had really any rain in a good while, so definitely need some rain. There is some in the forecast for Sunday, but we'll see what happens. If you'll remember this yarrow patch I was talking about looking so straggly, well, all of that in your screen is yarrow, and it has gone crazy, and it looks absolutely happy and gorgeous and is doing great. So I have to make sure I block that off so that nobody mows it down with the lawnmower, because it is beautiful and very useful. So we're gonna get out of this section of the yard and head over to the garden. If you'll remember me talking about planting corn last week, I said you really weren't supposed to do it till the oak leaves were the size of squirrel ears. And last week we had no growth whatsoever on our oak trees, so I was taking a gamble. But if you'll look, this is a big old, I believe it's a white oak, but it might be a red oak. I don't remember. But if you'll see all that growth going on up there. So it's starting to produce its seeds. And it's starting to produce, I don't know if you can see them, it's starting to produce some teeny tiny leaves. So I might have been a week too early, but I think it's going to be a gamble that's going to pay off. We will see. I'm going to show you out here at the big garden. Things aren't faring too terribly well. We are awful dry for this early in the season. You'll see I have my irrigation going. I obviously have a leak that's spraying this over here, but I'll show you. Let me get somewhere where I don't have seeds growing. You'll see it's basically dust. See it flying away in the air? Yeah, so desperately need a good soaking rain. These are my rows of corn. Don't see anything out of them. And, oh, we might have some way down here. But that's because we haven't had any rain. And this ground is just as dry as a bone. I think this down here is probably just some weeds. I got whatever this is growing. Yeah, some kind of weed. Down here looks like grass, which is interesting. Good little patch of grass right there, but yeah, no corn yet. Also haven't seen sign of any potatoes yet. That was this next row. This one right here. No sign of potatoes. Onions are doing all right. They could certainly be better. If you can see them down in there. Again, just too dry for stuff. Strawberries, like I said, the ones down here in this more clay soil are doing better than the ones up here where it's sandy and dry. We do, however, even though it's so dry, come all the way down here, and you can see where the drip tape 1 foot markers are. That's what people use to space things sometimes, as they go ahead and put out their irrigation and let it mark where your foot is for them. But if you look close here, radishes have come up somehow, some way. Oh, there's a leak. That's a problem. But the radishes look great. They're doing great. I don't really know why the right side of the bed is growing and the left side isn't. Who knows? But that's how they're coming up. But that's where we are for now. Very hot, very dry. It's 82 degrees, I believe, today. So warmer than normal for us this time of year. And like I said, much drier than normal as well. Put the thermometer in the ground here. Let's see what we're at. Looks like about 72 degrees. If it'll focus for you. Yeah, looks like about 72 degrees. So plenty warm for anything that you wanted to plant. Well, other than something like peppers, that hot weather stuff. But all your spring seeds could go in the ground now. But they're not going to come up. It's just way too dry. So I'm going to have to beef up my irrigation, or Mother Nature's going to have to beef up hers. One of the two. And hopefully we don't time it at the same time. But that's where things are going. I am going to, well, I think I might still go ahead and get some flower seeds in the ground. I'll show you here what I got. Let's see. So, I've got some old flowers from last year. These are the ones that also have the fertilizer and everything in it too. So you think you're buying a lot of seeds, you're not actually. And then these, also some wildflower mixes I've had for a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is do like I did last year and plant this end in flowers and that end over there in flowers, and see what happens. Hopefully we'll get something. Like said, it's supposed to rain on Sunday, so if it'll rain on Sunday and get them in the ground well, they should do all right. We will see. But you'll notice the grass that my dad and brother planted, probably 2 years ago now. They thought it didn't come up and that it wasn't, they were going to have to replant it and start over. But if you'll notice, let's see if I can zoom in for it, looks great. That's also, unfortunately, some of the best dirt we have, and stays pretty damp down in there as well. But it's too far away to realistically use at this moment. So, because I do most of the gardening by hand and on foot, so I don't really want to plant tomatoes down there and then have to walk them the 500 feet back to the car. So right now this is the garden, but hopefully eventually, if you're still here, we'll get to planting down there again. We did plant corn, a whole bunch of corn and pumpkins down there quite a few years ago now, and they did wonderfully. We had a truckload of pumpkins that we had to go around the neighborhood and pass out. But one day we'll get back to that. And like said, this over here will hopefully one day be the orchard. I'd say probably about 15 years ago now, we planted all these pines, and they go around the house, around this way, all this over here, down the light line to the property line. We got in a forestry program that paid for just about everything and gave you a little chunk of change if you did this. And so we went through and did it. Planted loblolly pines because that's what they suggested. And I think it's 5 or 7 acres that we did in that. But ran into quite a few problems because we were at the mercy of the Forestry Service to come and take care of them. So it took 3 years in a row of planting to finally get this stand of trees, and this could be significantly better. We have quite a few bald spots and things are a little too sparse. But they come through and they spray for weeds after about the first year. They come through and they do that, and that's supposed to take out the competition, and then the trees are supposed to be able to get above the competition and do better and all these sorts of things. Well, it wasn't until the 3rd time that they actually came out and did that part of it. And we also, that first year, we had a real bad drought, and it was just too hot and too dry, and they just didn't make it. But finally, that 3rd stand, we've gotten a pretty good amount. Now, this right here in the front, that's my winged elm. And then you've got the 2 behind that are massive cedars. And then here you've got some straggly pines, and I don't think we planted these. I think these were just doing their own thing. And there's also another elm tree mixed in there as well. But you'll see that bright shiny grass spot. For some reason, nothing will grow there, and it continues all the way across into the light line path. So that's why the garden stops, because for some reason that little stretch is some kind of soil, some kind of something that nothing will grow in other than grass. So as I thought about moving the orchard to there too because of how sunny it is, but nothing will grow there, and I don't want to take a chance on that. But anyways, I've rambled on long enough. I'll show you what I plan to do. So you might not be able to tell, but last year there was 2 more rows right here. We're kind of shifted over a little bit this year, but there were 2 more rows here, and this is where I had the majority of my flowers planted. And we decided this year not to mess with it, not to till it up or anything, hoping that the flower seeds were going to regerminate and do their thing. I don't think they have. It looks like everything we have is just weeds, which they're flowering, which is great. We do have some little butterflies around, but I think I'm going to work this up a little bit and sprinkle my seeds and see what happens. And then on the other end down there, I do have an actual row. Let me go down here and show you. I do have an actual row, so I'm going to rake that flat like I've done with all of these corn, this corn row and strawberries and whatnot. But this row here, this one without the irrigation, I don't know if you can see, yeah. This row is what I'm going to put my other flowers in. and we'll see what happens. I will do a video on this irrigation. I'll try to do a nice video on that and explain that to you hopefully next week. And then I also have some flags here where I'm going to lay out my fencing so that I can get the electric fence up, because we have had some deer going through. And I know I said I was going to get my tomatoes in the ground this week, but that hasn't happened, and partially hasn't happened, well, 2 reasons. One, there's some 30-degree nights coming next week, so I don't want to have to protect them once I get them in the ground. So I don't want to have to protect them from frost. So they're hanging out, they're getting acclimated to the sun. I'm taking them in and out of the house and letting them be in the sun and get used to the sun. But the other thing is that since I'm already seeing some deer presence out here, I don't want to put the tomatoes out here and have the deer just eat them all. So I need to get my electric fence up, or at least part of my electric fence up, get that electrified and going so that the deer won't come and decimate my hard work. So I'm going to get these flowers planted, and then I might be stepping off this fence a little bit. Something else I wanted to tell you about flower seeds. So if you'll see here, remember me saying you got to look at your seeds to see what you're getting? So this mix here had your fertilizer already in it. But if you look, it covers 200 square feet of flowers. Now, the other bag that I showed you covers 1,000 square feet. And I believe they were the same price. So take a look at your square foot coverage when you buy seeds. And then also, when you go to plant them, if this plant's 200 square feet, well, that's these 2 rows. So all the way down there, all the way up here, it's about 1.5 feet wide, 100 feet down, 100 feet down. So there's your 200 square feet. And most people are going to take a bag like this, and you're going to fill up your little baby flower garden. Oh, excuse me. Lots of pollen today. But you're going to fill up your little baby flower garden. And what's going to happen is you've got your seeds in there way too tight. And you've also, if you buy this one that's got the fertilizer in it, you also now have too much fertilizer in that little space, and you're going to burn everything. So make sure you measure your space and you find out how much you have, because like I said, this is supposed to do 200 square feet. Now, because I know this is old seed, this is from last year, I haven't had it in a refrigerator or anything like that, some of this seed's not going to come up. So I mixed in the other bag of seed and just going to spread it all out here as much as I can. Now, you, like I said, you don't want it real dense. If you put it real dense, you're not going to get many flowers. You're only going to get the ones that are the strongest that'll survive out of your mix. And chances are it's going to be cosmos and zinnias. So I'm going to get to planting these. I've already raked these 2 rows flat. I'm just going to sprinkle this seed mix on top and then run the rake back over to kind of cover them gently. Most of your flower seeds want sun exposure to germinate, so you can't get them very deep in the ground. If you do, they probably won't grow. So I'm going to get them in the ground enough that the wind won't blow them away, and then hopefully, like I said, on Sunday it's going to rain and these will get to coming up. But I know we got another short video for you today, and I apologize. Things will get more interesting, especially if we can get some rain. But I enjoy you. I'm grateful that you've come along and hung out. Things will get more exciting as the season goes along. Actually, much earlier than the season usually would begin. You wouldn't be seeing anything out of me. Last year it was probably another month before you started seeing anything. So definitely ahead of the game. Hopefully that'll pay off. If nothing else, it's getting me outside and giving me something to do. But I hope you're doing well wherever you are, and hope you started getting the gardening bug as well. If you have any tips or tricks for any of the things we talked about, I'd love to hear them. I'm sure the subscribers would love to hear them as well. And hope you have a wonderful Easter if you're someone that celebrates. Hope you have a great time with your family, even if you're someone who doesn't. And Take care. Y'all come back next week.